afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Louise. I'm the Executive Director of Outdoor Play Canada. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to share with you a little bit about this framework, which we called the Educators Teaching Educators Canada's National Outdoor Early Childhood Education Framework. This was a long a labor of love amongst a number of different people. Mostly, I would say almost everyone on this call was involved in some capacity. But there were three people in particular that really helped spearhead this. And so I'd like to pass it over to them to introduce themselves. Mallory?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mallory Donaldson. I'm a registered early childhood educator with an advanced diploma in pre-health science and honors graduate of the Bachelor's of Early Learning in Community Development degree program at Algonquin College. I was delighted to accept a one-year fellowship opportunity with the Canadian Centre for Outdoor Play in 2023 as their first fellow. And in this role, similar to Bayan, building capacity and thought leadership for outdoor play stakeholders, as well as led advocacy initiatives for the promotion of outdoor play in the early years. And then since completing my term as the CCOB fellow, I've transitioned into a new position as the early years specialist with Lanark County Children's Services. So thank you for being here tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm Bayan. I'm also a registered early childhood educator, and I'm the current research fellow with Outdoor Play Canada.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Lalonde. I'm a registered ECE. I'm also the coordinator and faculty of the Bachelor of Early Learning and Community Development at Algonquin College here in Ottawa, Ontario. And I'm also the co-chair for the national panel with the Canadian Centre for Outdoor Play. So it's great to see so many people here and enthusiastic about what we're talking about today.
Finding my mute button. Thanks, everyone. Okay. There we go. Before we begin, I'd like to provide a land acknowledgement. So Outdoor Play Canada is a national organization whose projects and activities encompass all traditional territories of the Indigenous nations of Turtle Island within the land we now call Canada. Though we've made concerted effort to think about how to move beyond just making a land acknowledgement. And so we were gifted the following extended land acknowledgement by an elder, which aims to provide action to the statement. And so here it is. So the work we support and lead is at its core about repairing our relationship with the land and with each other as caretakers and stewards of the land. We acknowledge the traditional land defenders who have been here for millennia and who are still here. When we look around us, breathe the fresh air, admire the rich biodiversity, this is an opportunity to thank the ancestors who sustained these lands so that we can benefit from them today. In our work, we strive to consider how future generations will benefit from the time, energy, and intention we put into it. We have a responsibility to carry forward these teachings. Like I mentioned, I'm with Outdoor Play Canada, so you may be wondering what it is. We're a national organization that brings together advocates, practitioners, researchers, and partner organizations to promote, protect, and preserve access to play and nature and the outdoors for all people living in Canada. We underline all people because while a lot of our work tends to focus on children and youth, we feel that play doesn't end when you stop being a child. And so, in line with that, our vision is that outdoor play be a valued part of daily life for all people living in Canada. And we aim to meet this mission and vision by providing strategic leadership to, promoting connection and collaboration with, amplifying successes of, and serving as a central hub for the outdoor play sector in Canada. And a really excellent demonstration of all of these actions and how we aim to act upon these pieces is through our most recent collaboration, which we've called the Canadian Centre for Outdoor Play. The Canadian Centre for Outdoor Play is a collaboration between Outdoor Play Canada, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario Research Institute, Algonquin College, and Andrew Fleck Children's Services. And through this collaboration, we have launched a licensed nature-based early childhood education program here in Ottawa. that's being led by Andrew Fleck Children's Services. The building has finally launched, and while the building is gorgeous, more importantly, it is on 900 acres of forested land, and that's where the children spend as much time as possible for their learning and play. Surrounding this early child education program, the CHIO Research Institute and the HALO Research Group in particular is leading a living lab and training site through which they are looking to measure the benefits of this program in comparison to more conventional programs in terms of children's health, well-being, and development, the health, well-being, and development, or health and well-being of educators and of families as well. Algonquin College is leading professional development as part of this collaboration, which is the focus of today's webinar. And through these three elements, we aim for the Canadian Centre of Outdoor Play to serve as a national centre of excellence in outdoor play and learning. And if you happen to be in Ottawa or visiting Ottawa at any point in time, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We love giving tours. We love showing off our space. It's gorgeous any time of the year, especially it's funny hearing all the educators being like, I can't wait for snow, because it provides just so many new opportunities for play. So like I mentioned, the focus of today's webinar is, of course, on that outdoor early child education professional development being led by Algonquin College. And as part, a main project that has been led over the last year is the launch of the Educators Teaching Educators Canada's Outdoor Early Child Education Continuous Professional Learning Framework. What a mouthful. So we tend to just call it the Outdoor ECE Framework. And the idea behind this framework was there's a lot of good work happening across Canada in terms of professional development as it relates to outdoor ECE. But because early child education is provincially mandated, a lot of these programs tend not to talk to each other, and there tends not to be any national cohesion or communication. And so what we sought to do was really talk to the community, talk to the network of outdoor early child education professional learning experts, leaders, stakeholders, those who are involved in some capacity, and ask, what do you consider are the key elements of outdoor ECE professional development? And based on everything, so that's what we did. We asked them, we said, what do you think are these key elements? We compiled all this information together, we summarized it, and then we went back to the community and said, is this what you meant when you told us all this information? And we massaged and we reformatted and we edited. And then finally, we achieved national consensus on the key elements of this framework and published it in this document. And through all these efforts, we hope to uphold quality and consistency in outdoor early child education pedagogy. And so with that, I'd like to pass it over to Mallory, whose fellowship with us really focused on launching this framework, getting it started rather, reaching out to all of those different community members and compiling all this information and launching the first of 2 surveys. Mallory, take it away.
Thanks, Louise. So as Louise mentioned, the purpose of this evidence-informed framework was to achieve consensus and serve as a pedagogical document that will promote consistency in training and support outdoor ECE practitioners across Canada in their work. The intended goal of the rooted principles, which are the key pedagogical practices in outdoor ECE continuous professional learning that were identified in this process, and the larger outdoor ECE framework, was to support educators teaching educators. The initial developmental stages of the outdoor ECE framework included securing funding, conducting an environmental scan over a period of 9 months, consulting with leaders from outdoor ECE organizations, establishing the National Panel on Licensing Outdoor ECE in Canada, and launching the Outdoor ECE Community of Practice, and consulting with over 100 ECEs across Canada for more than 8 months. Based off of the initial environmental scan, including a gray literature and data search, as well as the first stages of our consultation process of 33 resources on outdoor nature professional continuous learning and 24 post-secondary programs in Canada, we identified 3 elements to outdoor ECE continuous professional learning. Next slide. We then took these 3 elements, and called them the rooted principles, and went back to our consultation group and to the broader outdoor EC community across Canada to see if these resonated with what they told us and felt were truly the key elements of quality outdoor ECE continuous professional learning. The first round of the national community surveys were distributed to over 350 outdoor EC community members over a 2-week period. The survey received 137 responses from across Canada and a lot of comments. This sparked, a robust consultation process, which included distributing, analyzing, and summarizing the results from the community surveys to achieve national consensus on those rooted pedagogical principles of outdoor ECE. Next slide. Among the key comments in round 1 of the community survey was the need to more directly recognize Indigenous ways of knowing and being when discussing outdoor ECE. We were also pushed by our survey respondents to more directly identify ways the framework and outdoor EC continuous professional learning may address the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action. Based off the comments, a multi-lens approach section was added to highlight the importance of fostering a decolonization approach when engaging in outdoor EC continuous professional learning. The section acknowledges the historical context in which outdoor education operates. It aims to challenge dominant narratives, value and honor Indigenous ways of knowing and connections to land, and contribute to reconciliation and healing efforts with Indigenous communities by nurturing collaboration, respect, and understanding. Throughout the framework, we sought to highlight ways in which the 3 rooted principles could serve to address many of the calls of actions outlined in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report. And I'll pass it over to Diane.
Thank you, Mallory. So I'm going to discuss the second round of the community survey, and I'll touch on the feedback that we received, and then follow up with the actions that we took in order to thoughtfully incorporate that feedback into the framework. So from the second round of the National Community Survey, we received lots of insightful feedback that helped us in strengthening the rooted principles of outdoor ECE and some concepts that we discuss within the framework. So that's namely defining spirituality and community, prioritizing justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, belonging, again, decolonization, and making the framework easy to follow and more accessible to all readers. Thank you. So the concept of community and spirituality are both pretty significant within the context of outdoor ECE, and we discuss them at length within the framework. So naturally, no pun intended, we cover them pretty extensively within the rooted principles. So with that said, our second round of our national community survey, there were multiple comments like, hey, what are you referring to exactly when you're talking about spirituality or community? And then we also received conflicting feedback about spirituality. Like, do we want to mention spirituality at all? What if some people aren't spiritual? What if some people are not religious? So we thought it was pretty important that we kind of nail down a specific definition for those two things. When it came to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and belonging and decolonization, we were urged to consider a few things. First, re-examining our views of the land, the outdoors, nature, and being more intentional in our language and interactions within outdoor spaces. So that included like emphasizing sustainable practices, how we actually view land itself, and how we can be more mindful of the historical context that exists within land and nature-based learning. And it was also suggested to us that although we discuss justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, it could be helpful and pretty important to include a note within the text to emphasize like, okay, these are the rooted principles. And while the hope is that all children are able to foster them and experience them during their play, they might not manifest, i.e. look, feel, develop, sound the same way as easily for children in our care due to their race, their background, their ethnicity, their level of ability, and so forth. For reasons such as safety concerns, feelings of exclusion, a lack of cultural sensitivity provision, culturally sensitive provision, or developmentally appropriate features, or language limitations even. So it was important to include that within the framework. And our third major piece of feedback, like I mentioned, was making the framework a bit more accessible and reader friendly and a bit less academic. So it's not like you're reading just a paper, and it's more engaging to all readers. So we took the feedback from the previous slide we just shared. We went back to the drawing board and we realized a few things. One, that we were speaking about concepts like community and spirituality, or when we're speaking about concepts like community and spirituality, we have to be a bit more specific and find ways to make the definitions more inclusive and a bit more all-encompassing. And Lisa is going to speak about the certificate program after I'm done speaking. But I'm currently enrolled in that specific certificate program that is being guided by this framework. And there was a quote that was shared within the program or course that I'm taking on the grammar of animacy and what we personally refer to as alive or not alive. And the quote was, "Words make worlds, and that naming is just the beginning of justice." And this quote really stood out to me and still stands out to me. And I still find it so profound, especially when discussing Jedi and community and spirituality, because it speaks to how important it is that we are intentional in our language and how powerful language can be. And using it correctly or incorrectly could just make a world of a difference. No pun intended again. But that could be as simple as putting a capital L for when you're addressing the land to kind of give it personhood, the same way you would a person, or to reflect on trees or aspects of nature as existing within themselves, not just in relation to us only. But yeah, I reflected on this quote a lot while coming up with the definitions for community and spirituality. And given the context of outdoor ECE, that meant making sure that the definition of community included things kind of like the interconnectedness of all species, and in making sure that we addressed and defined spirituality in a way that was mindful of Indigenous perspectives, that touched on its relation to children, that provided a clear and distinct definition, that highlighted that it's not just structured to religious practices. The feedback we received also encouraged us to revisit our Jedi and decolonization sections for the purpose of making them a bit more robust, so even more so than the first round that Mallory mentioned. And to do that, we ended up including specific frameworks such as the Government of Canada's Wheel of Power and Privilege to highlight one's identity and how identity can impact the amount of societal power one can hold, kind of shedding a light on intersectionality, and frameworks such as the Racial Equity Impact Assessment Framework, and an example of an anti-racism and anti-oppression framework that we also included in the framework, and also the Invisible Knapsack, which highlights the unearned advantages and privileges that white people hold and possess compared to other groups. Of course, we also use the specific feedback and suggestions that we received in the community surveys, making this a more community effort. And when things are done through community, there's a stronger success rate for creating more equitable and inclusive space for all people. So using all this feedback that I just discussed from both the first and second round of the community surveys with Mallory's help, we reviewed and revised our rooted principles and landed on the following key points that came together to make each principle. And a visual way to think about it is to imagine each of the rooted principles as literally a root, and then everything else that comes with it is part of the roots that part of the roots that help the seed. It's the seed and the roots, if I imagine that correctly, yes. And that's what we came up with. So in our effort to make this, like I was talking about, oh no, you're right. Next slide. Thank you. Yeah, so in our effort to make this a more community effort, like I was saying, one of our questions in the National Community Survey that we put out was asking our respondents if they would like to be acknowledged for their contributions to this framework and its conception. And because it was only possible with the help of our contributors, and many responses opted to publicly endorse the framework, and the process to doing this was very meticulous. We had to reach out to everyone via email gather up their affiliations, names, locations, and then send it out again for confirmation, and then incorporate into the framework and then send out the framework. And some people did actually also request to see the framework prior to publishing, and of course, we obliged and sent it to them prior to releasing it publicly. So on pages 55 to 58 of the framework, we address the life cycle and intentionality of the framework, including several intentional stages, emphasizing continuous growth and adaptability. And we broke it down into 8 specific areas, starting from foundation and development and ending in advocacy and policy. But obviously, it'll continue, it'll keep going throughout its life cycle. So we're currently on step 3, which is training and implementation. And this stage specifically focuses on Algonquin College's Plato course, which we are using as a vehicle to pilot the outdoor ECE framework, as it's guiding the pedagogy for the course. And we're also the educators enrolled in the program are actually helping us and giving us feedback about its usefulness and its practicality.
Great. You can just put the things up there, Louise, go right through. So I'm going to speak briefly to the actual Plato certificate. So Plato is short form for Play, Learn, and Teach Outdoors in the early years. It is a 4-course post-diploma certificate. So anybody with their ECE diploma is able to apply into this program. The first 3 courses are structured based off of a rooted principle each. So our first course is active engagement in outdoor pedagogy. The second is nurturing holistic development in outdoor pedagogy. The third is meaningful connections in outdoor pedagogy. And then the final course and the Plato certificate is a capstone. And so we really worked deeply on trying to make something that is accessible for our professionals who are working through this, and also something that's meaningful to the work that you as educators were doing individually. And so a practicum was something we wanted, that really hands-on experience. And so what we decided is to do a capstone project that is course-based. So you'll still have the course, but it's within the agency or the setting you're already working in. And so that could be in a forest program if that's what you are, but it could be literally any program where there's children and families that you're working with. So you can be in a toddler program, a preschool program, an early on program, anything where you can situate yourself as an ECE working in outdoor play. And we really wanted to make sure that is accessible, but also deeply meaningful. So the idea is you do the 3 courses and take that material and then apply it to a project base of some sort that will then benefit your work that you're doing in your full-time positions. We see this as an action research base, something in early childhood that we know is something we need to build greater capacity, is that we want to be able to build educators opportunities to do critical thinking, to build on projects, to be action researchers on their own. And we've seen great success in this in other areas, especially in the degree that we're talking about. And so we wanted to give opportunity for that to come in service training as well. The program is affiliated with Algonquin College. There has been bursaries associated with the bursaries. Currently are not through Algonquin College, but through the ECE training. So in Ontario, you can actually apply for their leadership grant, and it can cover the cost of these courses, which is quite great. Those of you who are interested or eager to do that, I always recommend apply early because the leadership grants do run out, but it is possible. And then there is bursary programs that are additionally available through Outdoor Play Canada. So we have had our first section of this offering in September. It's on the end of wrapping up. In January, we will have the second course offered, but we also at Algonquin will be offering the first course again. So those of you in communities who may have interest in doing this, absolutely can do that. In regards to accessibility. So hi, Lori. Can you access the certificate across the country? Yes. So what we're really actually quite excited about this is the pedagogical outlook of our professional learning is we want ECs to be able to access this. We want people to be able to do it, and we want it to be meaningful and purposeful. And so we're using a hybrid model where if you are in the Ottawa region, there are 3 times throughout the term where you would come in person. It's most of it is asynchronous. So, but the first week, usually week 9 and then week 14, 14 or 15, people who are in the Ottawa region would come together on Algonquin campus, meet together with the instructor and the class. That was built because feedback we've gotten repeatedly for professional learning is ECEs want to have a sense of belonging and make connection. And so post-COVID world where we're not getting opportunity to do that as often, people are saying, I do better when I can connect at least at some point. But realistically, I can't make it every week. Working till 6. I have children. I'm exhausted at the end of the day. And so the way we've built that is for anybody who is outside of the Ottawa region, you can join in via satellite, basically. So via Zoom, in our class, we have multimodal classrooms. And so the professors will have you in the class. You can participate fully. You can participate in the conversation and dialogue. And that happens 3 times throughout the term. So yes, Lori, anyone across the country can apply into this program. I see Daniel has a question. Can you do the course if you have a ministry director approval? Not all childhood need to have an EC according to this. Yeah. So if you are somebody who is working, this is specific to Ontario, but if you are somebody who is working in Ontario who doesn't have your ECE, but you are working within the capacity and you have directorial approval, then yes, absolutely, that would be opportunity. There is a bit of a challenge. These courses are built with the intention and function of it's not about teaching you how to do anything. It's not to say this is what you do and this is how you do it. It's really building off the foundations of knowledge and skill that you already have as an early childhood educator. So we have had people request to join who are not ECs, but have extremely rich histories and included with actual working with children directly in these type of settings. And so that is something that is in the application process that can be put. But currently we want to make sure that people coming into the program are recognizing that we aren't doing a how-to of child development. We are not doing a how-to of making meaningful relationships. It's very much here are the principles we're addressing. Here's how we're connecting. How are you seeing this? How is this presenting to you? How do you guide through these moments? Have you considered these things? And so it's really trying to elevate that practice versus a delivery of information. So we're just mindful of people like yourselves being aware of these pieces coming into it. Hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Lisa, do you mind if I jump in for a moment?
Okay.
So I just building off of that. So, this framework we developed because we wanted to support the community of outdoor early child education professional development deliverers. And in essentially saying, this framework came from what already exists with the idea of, so if you have a program that you're already delivering, then you can say this is in alignment with what early childhood educators across the country have built consensus on. These are the key elements. If you have a program that needs updating, we would hope that this framework would serve as a useful tool to you to guide you in identifying, okay, these are 3 elements that should be incorporated, and so this will guide me in updating the program. And then similarly, if there's a professional development organization that's thinking of creating a new course, ideally, not ideally, but we would hope that this framework would be useful to them again in guiding the development of that course. And so essentially, once we developed the framework, we thought, okay, well, we need to actually pilot its usefulness in developing a course, which was the idea behind the Plato course with Algonquin College. So this is not sort of a framework for the Algonquin College course. It's very much for the outdoor early child education professional development community across Canada. And so we hope that it's considered as such. And so in fact, we're working with a couple of colleagues to think about how other professional development opportunities can use this framework to do similar, or can develop be used to inform their outdoor early child education professional development.
No, that's great. Thanks, Louise. I'm just looking at this other. Is the framework available to ECs if they are not able to do the course at the moment. The framework is online, absolutely. So on the Outdoor Play Canada website, the framework can be looked at, and actually we encourage that. And so there's in professional development, there's different stages of it. And as Louise said, it's not a case of, this is something that's under lock and key. It was built with and for educators. Specifically, the idea about the framework about educators who help educators, again, as Louise said, at the college, university, training level, looking at these pieces and recognizing that there are some underlying themes that we saw repeatedly. And so trying to build some of that foundational piece, but absolutely on Outdoor Play Canada, the framework is fully available to everyone.
Yes, and it is actually also all being translated into French right now. So hopefully that should be up soon too.
Can you go to the next slide, please? So for those of you who are looking for resources and looking for access, there are some really great ways to join us. You can scan this QR code even right here online, access our link tree and become part of Outdoor Play Canada. There is the Teaching Educators Framework. You can become a PlatoNet member. You can join the steering committee for the 10-year anniversary of the position statement on active play. You can become a member of Outdoor Play Canada, and also it says 2023. It would be 2025 now, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you can join us in 2025 in Ottawa. We're going to have the Breath of Fresh Air Outdoor Play Summit, which is quite an exciting opportunity. For those of you who are interested to continue this conversation, maybe you don't have the space or bandwidth to be like, I need to do a certificate right now, because I understand that a lot of us are, there's a lot of pieces going on. There's some really great resources and professional learning out there, but maybe you do want to join a community that is like-minded, that's having these conversations, that continues to pursue this. We have a Canadian Centre for Outdoor Play community practice. And so that started very grassroots. We, again, similarly along the same timeline as the survey, we continue to send out invitations to those in the circles. We ask for those people to continue to send out, and we're doing the same thing tonight and saying, if you're interested in joining community practice, there's no obligation to participate at any certain point. You can come in and participate as it works for you, see what other people across the country are saying. There's some really robust conversations. And moving into the new year, we have some exciting ideas and opportunities of how to gather differently in topics, et cetera. So we're quite excited about this next stage of the community of practice, because we know finding people that we can connect to and sustain is really important in our practice, especially if there are those of you who might not be in centers or spaces that have a robust group of people who are interested or intrigued in this, or maybe just don't have the capacity. Maybe you're wanting to do some problem solving, some critical thinking. Coming into this group and having those dialogues is really, really key. So we're really excited about that opportunity. It's free, it's open to access at any point. And again, there's people across Canada with some really, really interesting perspectives. We wanted to thank all of you for coming today. And we also wanted to thank the funders and support of Outdoor Play Canada, so the Waltons Trust, the Public Health Agency of Canada, and the Ottawa Community Foundation. We've been really fortunate to have these wonderful supporters behind this initiative, along with those of you who've participated. As you saw in previous slides, there's so many people who've given so much energy to this, and we look forward to furthering that as time goes on. So we have time, we've built in time for questions. And so I'm curious if anyone has questions for any of us.